All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me. The microphone's on. We're good. All right. Welcome to the July 9, 2022 meeting of the Rotary Club of Beaver Creek. I want to thank our prosecutor, David Hayes, for greeting people today. I'd like to thank Eric for taking care of tickets, and like to thank all the people who work on our programs. And we're blessed to have Senator Hackett here as our program today. I'd like to introduce Denny Jarvie for our invocation.
Greetings. Would you please join me in prayer? Oh, Holy Creator, we are thinking of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, a servant of the UK, her whole life, from being a mechanic and a truck driver during World War II and through the years are following. Bless King Charles II and give him wisdom and courage as he assumes his new role in these times of strife, war, famine, and so on. Thank you for our elected leaders and for our public servants who help strive to help our citizenship. We pray for peace and the reduction of conflict. And as a guide, we Rotarians love to use the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? We thank you in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate that. I do things a little bit out of order. So Joe Jenkins is getting fired up here as our secretary. We appreciate him stepping up in that capacity. So I'm going to give him a little more time before the secretary's report. Please be sure to make sure you check in with him when you're coming in. And I'm going to introduce our Sergeant at Arms, Don Adams. Hey, calm down.
Yeah, please settle down. That's just too much. Before I get started, I do want to thank Judge Capelli. She's here for letting me spend some time with her yesterday afternoon. That was an enjoyable afternoon. Today is September 9th. Thank you for clearing that up. It's the 252nd day of the year. There's only 113 days left. It's also Emergency Services Day and Care Bears Share Your Care Day, International Buy a Priest a Beer Day, International Sudoku Day, National 401k Day, National Dog Walker Appreciation Day, National Teddy Bear Day. It's also Wiener Schnitzel Day. So if you want to go to get a Wiener Schnitzel, we came close today, and then it's also Wonderful Weirdos Day. This week we celebrate International Ambulance Week, Air Ambulance Week, International Tree Climbing Week, National Biscuits and Gravy Week, and the important one, National Payroll Week, Popcorn Days, National Waffle Week, and September is National Bourbon Heritage Month. So makes September a very important month. Today in history, in 1776, the Continental Congress officially named its Union of States the United States. In 1791, the capital of the United States was renamed after George Washington. Prior to that date, it was called Columbia. In 1839, the first glass plate photograph is taken by John Herschel. In 1850, California is admitted as the 31st state of the United States. In 1861, Nurse Sally Tompkins is officially commissioned as an officer, and its only woman officer by the Confederate U.S. Army. In 1942, a Japanese float plane dropped an incendiary bomb on Oregon during World War II. And in 2015, Queen Elizabeth II became the longest reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, but we do mourn her loss yesterday. She served over 70 years, and for a lot of people, they don't know anyone else. In England, I think the large proportion of people there have never had another monarchy there. So we also celebrate a couple of birthdays here. Michael Hadley, September 6th. It's your dad. Listen to that. And Mike Zwick celebrated his birthday on September 6th as well. Member anniversary, Mike Canada. It's 6 years. And in the news this week, Beaver Creek jumped out quickly to a lead and stayed in control to defeat opponents. CTC the other night, 56-53, giving Coach Colvin his second victory as a new coach.
23.
What did I say? Oh, I'm sorry, 56-23. Thank you. That's what's written here, just didn't say it. I need somebody to come read this for me. We've also got a pretty good kicker out there, Sean Morse. He Friday against Ponus, he was 6 for 6 with extra points, had 2 field goals, including one at 49 yards. Which I watched him warm up, and he does kick the ball pretty well. And a Kettering native was named the first female chief of boat, or the highest ranking enlisted person on a U.S. submarine in the history of the U.S. Navy. She's the Master Chief of Information Systems Technician, Angela Kugler from Kettering. This is what I thought was kind of interesting. 4 cities in Ohio have been ranked as some of the most rat-infested cities in America. Cleveland's number 10, Cincinnati's number 19, Columbus number 26, and Dayton number 48 out of 50. Makes you want to go to those cities, doesn't it? The Beaver Creek Popcorn Festival starting tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 8 and 11 p.m. to 6 on Sunday, with a 5K run on Saturday morning and a car show on Sunday. So please try to go out and visit that. Also, the Italian Festival and the Greek Festival are being held this weekend, plus several other festivals. So Beaver Creek Police Department and the Beaver Creek Township Fire Department will host a 9/11 remembrance ceremony on Sunday, September 11th, starting at 8:43 a.m. If you're planning to go to that, though, please go earlier because there's very little parking there at Beaver Creek Station. So, and I think speakers will be Bob Stone, Mayor Bob Stone, Pastor Brian Huff, and Beaver Creek Township trustees Tom Kretz and Jessica Dean. The Beaver Creek Police Department will also be holding an open house on October 1st from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Please come out and tour the building and see why they need one of the things that we have on the ballot in November. Also, the euro dropped as much as 7% to it's equal to $1 now. So now would be a good time to go to Europe. And if you're planning to go to the funeral of the Queen Elizabeth, the pound is down to $1.15. That's the lowest it's been in a long, long time. Since we're honored to have 2 of our sitting State House residents and lawmakers here today, as well as a couple of other former ones, I thought I'd share a couple of laws that are still in the books here in Ohio that these guys have made up. I won't blame them for it, but you know, yeah, Bob could be one of these guys. Yeah, right. You need a license to kill a housefly when you're 160 feet from a church. Fowl on Lake Road is illegal in Bay Village. You need a hunting license to catch mice in Cleveland. Excessive honking is illegal in Fairview Park. Honking your horn twice is considered excessive. Shaking a snake at someone is unlawful, but you can throw it at them instead. Unless you're in Toledo, they do have a law against throwing a snake. If you leave an item on a tree lawn, it stops being yours. The object becomes the property of the city. Arrests should not be made on the 4th of July and Sundays. I'll tell the chief everybody can take off on those days. It's illegal to fish for whales on Sunday. And also in Perrysburg, the breeding of whales is prohibited. In Akron, it's illegal to display colored chickens for sale. And in the installation and usage of slot machines in outhouses is prohibited in Bexley. As I was going through looking at these things, I found something that I was not aware of. Ohio did not officially become a state until 1953. It actually became, President Thomas Jefferson endorsed the United States Congress decision to grant statehood February 19th, 1803, but they didn't process it. President Eisenhower caught it, and in 1953, he officially made it a state and backdated it. So I guess you can backdate it. Old Merle and Ethel were sitting on the porch enjoying the summer breeze. Suddenly, Ethel reached over and smacks poor old Merle right out of his chair. "What was that for?" he exclaims. "That's for being such a lousy lover all these years." Well, Merle gets back in his chair, sits quietly for a while, and then reaches out and smacks Ethel right back. "And what was that for?" "That's for knowing the difference." When the summer was getting sunnier, a woman asked her husband, what do you think? Should I go sunbathing in the nude in the backyard?" The husband just shrugs and says, "Do as you like." The woman replies, "What do you think the neighbors will say when they see me sunbathing like that?" "They'll probably think I married you for your money." Two old women were sitting on a bench waiting for their bus. The buses were running late and a lot of time had passed. Finally, one woman turned to the other and said, I've been sitting here so long, my butt fell asleep." The other woman turned to her and said, "Yes, I know. I heard it snoring." Starting Monday, September 12th, customers will now be required to unload semi-trucks at Walmart. This is in addition to your checkout duties. My brother took going to jail very badly. He refused to food and drink. He spat and swore at anyone who came near him. It's the last time we played Monopoly together. I was talking to a bartender the other day, and he told me the hardest thing about being a bartender is figuring out when someone's drunk or they're just stupid. This is for Shannon. We were doing home renovations, and incredibly, we knocked down a wall. And behind it, found a completely furnished room. Then I remembered I lived in a duplex. Last night, I celebrated with a couple of adult beverages, Metamucil and Ensure. Some of these guys are laughing too hard at that one. A grandmother and her son were shopping at a supermarket, and the grandma said, "Diploma, get me some sugar and put down that packet of sweets." The cashier asked, "Is your grandson's name Diploma?" And she said, "Yes." "Why Diploma?" "Well, my daughter went off to college, and this is what she brought back." As always, I'd like to leave you with a couple of positive or inspirational quotes. This is how I used to start my day every day when I was on the road. John Wooden said, "Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do." And everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. How true that is. It really is. Today's fines. If you have bought a drink for a priest, that's $1. If you attended the Beaver Creek football game last week, that's $1. If you've had biscuits and gravy this week, that's $1. If you've been to California in the last year, that's $1. If you're not wearing a Rotary pin today, that's $1. David? Happy bucks.
Thank you, sir. All right, secretary's report, Joe Day.
Yeah, 60% of today attendance. We have a couple guests. David Ace is Annotated Healthy. Sir Patley. Have you?
Yeah. I have with me the CEO of the company I work for, Mr. Trent Grimes. Trent.
All right, Stephen's not here today. Cindy. Oh, there you are.
Cindy.
She's a guest of Stephen.
I just started.
I'm pretty sure. Yes. I'll get a pleasure. Gotta go ahead and then what? Karen, Brian,
Right here. Okay. Happy bucks. Who's got a happy buck?
A couple, first of all, as Don had mentioned, that kicker Sean Morse, that was his third game in a row where he kicked an over 40-yard field goal.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's doing well for the team. And then just a happy buck for the overall record of Beaver Creek football. They're playing Springboro at Springboro tonight. So the season's gonna get a little bit more difficult.
All right. Other happy bucks? Alex.
One happy buck, and it's kind of an announcement too. We live in such a great community, the Beaver Creek community. And I convinced staff and with the help of our elected officials, we're doing an update to our comprehensive use plan. So we would love anybody's input, whether you live in the community, whether you live in the city, Fairborn outside, or visit just our community. There's some pamphlets up there, a little QR code, scan it, answer some questions, help us out. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it's my wife's birthday,
You can blame me on that, Alex. I said it was July 9th at the beginning of the meeting, so. All right. Other happy bucks. Shannon.
One, if you've not heard about the Intel manufacturing plant that's going to go into Columbus, look it up, take a look at it. We are incredibly fortunate. I'm sure Bob's heard a little bit about it. But that's going to bring so many jobs to Ohio, so many jobs to the area, and not only manufacturing the building, it's going to be enormous, but that's incredible. The other thing is, I'm happy the Popcorn Festival's here. When you guys go to the festival, find one of those people in the orange shirts and thank them for what they do. I mean, there's so much that goes into the background and make that happen, and there's a lot of sacrifice. And so I fortunately had the opportunity to go to Cleveland yesterday, so I could pick up some electrical stuff for the festival. So every one of us within the festival had bizarre things you have to do like that. So thanks somebody at the festival.
Hopefully you avoided the rats in Cleveland. So I was thinking of the festival as I printed out an outline of the program because I hadn't done this in a while. I still had pre-printed on there Bob Wilda as our ticket master. And I was thinking about Popcorn Festival and Scott Hadley running that. And it was just thinking of how lucky we are as a club to have those guys pass through. So it's we're real fortunate. Other happy bucks. Eric.
I'm happy about my hat club. I'd like you all to mark November 4 meeting on your calendar. Because past Rotary International President Barry Raskin will be attending our meeting. He's here for a banquet Friday night. And this Governor Frank Scott asked if we would host Barry for our meeting on November 4th. So plan on that. It should be interesting.
Okay.
It's not a happy buck, but with the British Lions, mentioned Scott Hadley, we're gonna have a fun one at least Saturday morning, 10:30 at the main stage.
Oh, nice. Okay. Any other happy bucks or announcements? Yes, Jim.
We need one more volunteer to man our booth at Popcorn Festival. So if you can either do that tomorrow from 4 to 6,
or tomorrow from 6 to 8. Please see me before you leave so we can be fully signed up. Thanks.
Anything else? All right, our ticket drawing, the proceeds of which benefit our Christmas basket project, 117498. Jim Red.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jim Gundel. All right. All right, Hot Crows. So our program today, we're fortunate to have Senator Bob Hackett, who represents all of Clark, Greene, and his home Madison County. Approximately, at least according to his website, which I'm not going to say it's updated, but it may be over 330,000 people in his representatives or in his that he represents. He is originally from that district. He attended London High School, where he was the captain of the undefeated football season. He is a member of their high school sports hall of fame. He matriculated to Columbia University, where he also continued his academic career and an excellent football year or a season with all Ivy League honors. Was awarded top scholar on his football team, got a BA in economics, and then returned to the district. He founded Central Ohio Financial Management Group, where he has remained for over 25 years. And he is great as a speaker because he knows a lot about what's going on and he's always willing to take questions. So welcome, Senator Hackett.
Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here. Actually, on Wednesday, I got a call, and I tell that gentleman. So right now, probably half hour ago, they just had the groundbreaking there. And so I got a call on Wednesday. They invited, I think, a smaller area, and they want to get more people there. So I got invited on Wednesday. I said, man, I got to be at Beaver Creek. Got to be at the Rotary. So, and maybe President Biden being there might have influenced my decision a little more, but that's all right. Pete wanted me to discuss, the legislation and different things that are pending in there. And I tell people, when you guess, I always tell the story is that my first year, we worked on the budget and we worked till end of June. And then I got back, we came back in September. So my second year, sorry,
You're not going to use it. I'll turn it off.
okay, good. Yeah, I don't think I need it. Do I need it? No, I do. I'm loud. And so my second year, we worked to the end of May, and then I would say, see people as we're leaving. I'd say, I'll see you in September. And they looked at me strange. And I said, so I went to Stephanie, who was my aide and was Steve Oster's aide, and Scott Nine's aide for a long time. Stephanie and I were great friends. She liked my daughter, and she died of cancer. So we miss her big time. But anyway, I said, Stephanie, why are people looking at me strange? And she goes, because you're an idiot, I said, when will we come back? She said, you will not come back till after the election. So Brian will tell you, we will not be back in session till after the election in November. And I think when I asked Bill Batchelor that, I said, why do they do that? They said, we want the people, we want Brian back in the district, running. We don't, well, his opponent is, we don't want him in Columbus tied up. And so we want to make sure he gets reelected. And remember, the House, they run every 2 year for 4 terms, and the Senate runs 2 4-year terms. He wanted me to talk a little about the legislation, but you guys are a captured audience, so I get to talk. I'm going to talk about one little subject first, and then, or maybe 2 subjects, and then we'll move to, different things pending. There's a lot pending, and so you never know. We're really looking in November at a really key race. And, when I started in the House, the Supreme Court judges, it was 7 Republicans and 0 Democrats. Then it went to 5-2, and then it went to 4-3 the last 4 years. And the 4-3, the Chief Justice pretty well votes with the Democrats every time. I mean, many times they all vote together, but a lot of times when it becomes partisan and it's a political issue, she'll vote with the Democrats. The Democrats' philosophy as it applies to the Supreme Court, David Hayes will tell you that. It's more that they want to influence and really make legislation. Well, the Republicans say that's what legislators do. Brian, we make legislation. They just make sure that that people follow the law, and they rule when they need clarification on how the law could be. And so there were two real hot issues, and one hot issue was redistricting. And we really tried to satisfy the Chief Justice, forget the Democrats, but we tried to satisfy the Chief Justice, and we changed a lot of districts to make them Democratic districts. And I tell people, I mean, they announced, I'm from Madison County. Starting January 1, my last 2 years, I won't represent where I live. So Clinton's coming into the 10th district, and it'll be Clark, Green, and Clinton. And there's really two rules. If you're running, you have to live in the district. Well, this is my last term, so I'm not ever running again as a senator. And then the second issue, you have to stay with the majority of the district. Well, if Clark and Green are together, there'll always be the majority of the district. So I stay with the 10th district. And so we did that. And so they tried to adhere what she wanted. And basically, she rejected that map twice. And that's what the federal judges, 2 out of the 3 were Republican, that said, all right, we want you to operate on that map. So people realize we did a temporary 4-year term. It's only going to be a 2-year term. These races are really important because I'll bet you that in 2 years, we redo the district on that scenario. We really will redo the maps. I mean, the people in charge usually do it. There's a word gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is, you're using too many districts, or you're doing things that make them more political and more partisan. And so what the Democrat wants, and I don't blame them, people don't realize right now that the big cities are Democrat and the rural areas are Republican. So you're going to have to satisfy one side or the other. You're going to have to gerrymander. She wanted us to gerrymandering to really many more strong Democratic districts. For example, Madison went into a district that was more Republican. Now it's 52% Democrat, 48% Republican. But she's rejected that because she wants a strong Democrat district. She doesn't want a district that's leaning Democrat. She calls it a competitive district. So she's not running again. She'll be gone at the end of the year. The one major plus about the race is when you go in to vote, the R and the D will be behind their names. If I made a mistake as a legislator, I really regret that we didn't do that last term, because Judy French, who's my friend, and Judy's great. Judy probably would get reelected, again, because Republicans. People don't realize when you look at it is at a governor's race or at a president's race, the last time the Chief Justice run, even though people were in the voting booth, they only got half as many votes. So a lot of people didn't vote in the Supreme Court race because they didn't know if they were Republican or Democrat. They just didn't know the people that well. And a lot of people don't really get political until it gets closer to the election, and then they have to decide because they got their family, their lives to live, et cetera. So that's the one thing. The second issue that I want to talk to you about, there's 2 really key issues they're going to be, and we put them, Brian will tell you, we actually, when they do, it makes it an issue change, and you'll see what the Supreme Court did. We can't just make legislation. We have to give it to the people to change the Constitution. So there's 2 issues. The first issue is, and I saw the judge here, judge will tell you when she would set bail, she had these different factors, and including was a factor of public safety, not only safety of the community, but also safety of the victims on that scenario. Well, the Chief Justice and the Democrats said the only thing you can rule on is the affordability of the person who committed the crime. And so, I mean, and I understand that, they want to have a difference between people that have great assets and people that don't have a lot of assets. But the judge takes that into consideration. They look at more, they're saying, hey, we'll do this, but we also want to protect people. And that's one of the ways we can protect people, by having high bail. So issue 1 is the issue that it puts public safety back in. That's all it does. It does. It puts public safety as a factor back into the race. Issue 2 is another real key one. And right now, to vote, you have to be a U.S. citizen. And Ohio has a scenario where it says to vote in Ohio statewide races, you have to be a U.S. citizen, but it doesn't really say anything about local races. So we've seen some very liberal local communities have basically come about and said, hey, we want people that aren't U.S. citizens to vote. There's a federal law that says you have to vote feds, you have to be a U.S. citizen. And Ohio is one of the states that said, if you want to vote in Ohio, you have to be a U.S. citizen. So basically what we did was we basically changed it and said, hey, that you have to be that. So the qualifications are you have to be 18 years or older, be a resident of the state, county, township, or ward, having been registered to vote for 30 days and having the qualifications of an elector. So that's why we added that now to vote. And the second thing we changed was in the Constitution, it's Article 5, Section 1 says, every citizen of the United States is entitled to vote at all elections. The amendment that it's in issue 2 said would amend the section to only a citizen of the United States is entitled to vote at all elections. So we changed the word to show that local, you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote. And I have some things that, of different communities in Ohio, liberal communities in Cleveland and Columbus, et cetera, that basically allowed people to vote in the local races. And they just said they would do that. So let's jump over to legislation and what's pending. One thing that I've done, and it's actually my bill, and I say this first, is we lost a great guy in Gene Fisher. We had a great sheriff, great guy. We love Gene Fisher. He's a good guy, Gene, and we'll miss him dearly. And so we're going to name 35 Memorial Highway as a Gene Fisher as part of it in Gene's honor. And we do that basically every session, every 2-year session, and we do it in one bill. So it takes a while to get it done. And I was able to get the Senate to do the bill. It's now sitting below the line over there. So it's passed the Senate. And so we'll get it done and lame duck. There's 12 bills came into that bill. And so of the bill that's 12, and I always tell people, the bill's called the Gene Fisher Memorial Bill. Jesse Owens is in the bill. So they're naming, a famous Ohioan, they're naming a road after Jesse Owens. I tell Brian, it'll go over to the House. Brian will help get it through. And they'll have a number of bills that'll be attached. And I'm not a stickler. I don't care if I get credit or not. I just want Gene Fisher to get that highway named for Gene Fisher. And so we will get it done. And I appreciate that. People don't realize how many bills that are dropped or how many bills. I asked Brian when I first got it, because I didn't know the answer until I checked it out. How many bills do you think, anybody in the room, Brian knows, but how many bills, Senate bills you think have passed are sitting over in the House? We call it below the line. And how many House bills that have passed are sitting below? I had no idea, and I wouldn't have got it even close to get it. Does anybody have any idea? I don't think they do. There is 100 House bills sitting over in the Senate. They're below the line. And there's 42 Senate bills that have passed. And when Householder was in there, Brian and I weren't crazy about Householder. Householder wanted to negotiate everything. So I had an insurance bill that everybody agreed on, which is an update. And Householder wanted, the only way he would get it passed through the House is if I got support on 3 bills, including a Democratic bill. And I said, that's not us. We just let each bill stand alone. That's not how we work, not how I work. It's not my reputation. You know that. And so eventually we were able to get it done under that scenario. But so there was a time last session where there were a lot of bills that both sides just couldn't agree on because Householder, the speaker who got in trouble, et cetera. And I knew it would take years. I mean, the first thing he did was delay. So it'll take years before it finally, it's supposed to hit court later this year. So we hope it will and hope it gets resolved under that scenario. But they did a really good job of kicking him out and he's gone. he didn't have one vote in the Senate that would supported him to stay in the House. He had some in the House because they said, you know, you're guilty, you're innocent till proven guilty, and they should let him stay. But we said, no, we adhere to a higher standard. And because of that, even if you get a good attorney and you're under that scenario and through negotiation, you maybe get a hand slap or something, who knows? We hope he goes to jail. We really do hope he goes to jail. Okay, so let's talk about other bills. A lot of people want to know about what's going to happen abortion-wise. I'm a Catholic, so I'm anti-abortion. I have been for a long time. And I tell the story about 60 days, a couple months ago. I was at an event and a lady came up and really accosted me. She goes, it's men like you, and I am not really a driver of the bill. I just always vote. I'm against abortion. And so, because I was raised that way. And so this lady just really accosted me, said, why do you men want to deal with women's body? Women should make their own decision about their body. And I turned to her in front of all the people. I said, all right, give me a date when you want to outlaw. And she looked at me. I said, no, seriously. If you want to, there's some women that'll probably say the day before the child's born. So I said, give me a date of when you want. And I said, all we're trying to do is there are two lives to protect, the life of the mother and the life of the baby. And so that's what we're trying to do. Both lives, I think, are important. The majority of us common sense Republicans will say the life of the mother, we want it. We want the life of the mother protected. Health of the mother, they'll play many games on that. But the life of the mother, I mean, we all read about the 10-year-old that said she couldn't get a thing here, in abortion, Ohio, had to go to Indiana. My wife will tell you, she's got a master's in nursing. Doctors will tell you a 10-year-old, their life is threatened if they have a baby at age 10. They could have got approval on an abortion because her life was threatened because she wasn't developed. As a 10-year-old's not developed. So it was, everything, it really upsets me at times that things are so political. Okay, I'm going to jump around because there's a lot of different bills I want to talk about. There's a bill called the PACE bill, and it's over in Brian's place, and it's House Bill 600. And the PACE bill is basically a bill that right now, a lot of people want to stay at home, and that's what Passport was, and that's what money goes in. But there's a lot of people that are eligible for nursing homes, and are eligible for real skilled care that they really have a real problem, but they still want to stay at home. So we developed a program on a pilot project. It's only in Cuyahoga County, and it's worked tremendously. And it's saved the state money, and it's saved the individual money. It's really a good deal. But you have to qualify, you have to be really under a skilled care situation going into a nursing home. So you got to be a little more than just a regular nursing home. And someone in a nursing home can't move out and go into the PACE program. So all the PACE program is we have to put money up as a state to fund it. And then the money comes back because the expenses are a little less than what the reimbursement by Medicaid and Medicare would be if once they're in a nursing home. So the money is made back for the state, what we put up. So it's good money. It's just, we got to upfront the money. So what the bill does, and they're working on it, and it may not get done in lame duck, which is like the middle of November to the middle of December, but it basically, it adds 6 more areas. And you really want to do it in the big city areas because you have a much more volume of people needing nursing homes, et cetera. And so, but one of the areas is a rural area that's next to Cuyahoga County because they want to expand there because they've had such a good success under that scenario. So that's one bill. Brian's got a bill that I did. Brian will tell you, I did the national model legislation for NCOIL, and it's called the Distracted Driving Bill. And Brian knows, he and I have worked really hard to try to get this bill passed, and the governor's behind us on that, but we don't have one of the key members of leadership in the House, who's a good guy. He's an attorney. And then the president of the Senate's not real crazy about it either, because they don't want more regulations under this scenario. But you talk to the trucking industry, you talk to a lot of industries, they'll just say is distracted driving is really key. So we could really, it'd be a win-win situation. I mean, I, as an old person, I probably was a real offender of it until I learned I could do everything on Bluetooth, and I've learned under that scenario. So that's why we really push. But there's a thing, Brian and I will tell you, in the House and the Senate, to get a bill passed. For example, right now in the Senate, there's 25 Republicans and 8 Democrats. In the House, I think there's 64 Republicans, 62 Republicans, and 37 Democrats. And so the leadership, the Speaker and the President of the Senate, they want a bill to pass. They want a majority that'll pass the vote of Republicans only. So Bob Cupp said he'll pass the bill if they get 50 votes in the House. And we got to get 18 votes in the Senate. And so we talked with the governor and everything. And so we got this gal and Brian to carry the bill. And she is put in there by Bill Sykes. You know, I mean, she's from Cincinnati. She loves Bill, but she knows this is an important bill, and she has worked so hard. But we only got 48 votes. Brian will tell you, we're 2 votes short, and Sykes has worked hard against us. At the state, I sat right next to him in the aisle, and because we did it, and their place is bigger than ours. And Cindy's regular seat's right next to him. And Sykes says, "You guys think you can get that bill over my dead body?" Because he doesn't want to change. You know, he wants to be able to talk, hold the phone in his hand, etc. But we just say, Bill, look at the figures and look at the states that have passed distracted driving law. It's really helped insurance rates, but more importantly, it's saved lives. One of the greatest person we have is a sports announcer at Dublin. He'll come at any time, and talk on that, because he was a good friend of my nephew at Dublin Kaufman. He lost her, and she was on her phone. It was distracted driving that she got into a wreck. It wasn't paying attention. So that's one of the other things that we're doing. ARPA funds. We're working on legislation. They are too, that we want all the ARPA funds. ARPA funds are the second set of federal funds that came down. Now, a lot of conservative Republicans, and I'm an investment guy, aren't real crazy about running up the debt. But what we have said to the Tea Party people, we have said all along to the Tea Party people, if we don't spend it in Ohio, it'll go to Democratic states. But the real key is we'll still have to pay it back. And I tell people that if we have to pay it back, I think we're making short-run solutions that are going to hurt us in the long run by running that debt up. I'm not real crazy about it. But if we don't, we're still going to have to pay it back, because it's a Democrat-controlled situation. If we don't use it, that money will get spent in California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, et cetera. So that's why the ARPA funds. So we're going to work really well under that scenario. There is a Senate Bill 307 on electric vehicles that basically is setting some more rules, but it's also giving tax breaks for electric vehicles. We're trying. I mean, it's hard for me. I drive a hybrid, and I love my hybrid, and I get high miles. And I know I'll get high miles electric, but I drive 45,000 miles a year, and I am really, really busy, and so I don't want to be late for something, because I'm looking, trying to find an electric thing to charge my car. And so until they get more facilities of charging, I'm not real crazy about electric vehicles, but that could change. I have a couple other bills that are pending in committees. I have the debt settlement bill. Okay, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I think we can get it done. It may not be in lame duck, but in the old days, we had bad players in debt settlement. And debt settlement, you see those ads on TV and on the radio, and they basically said, we can get you a better deal. You're in serious debt. We can get you a better deal. Well, the feds jumped in, and remember, feds trump us. So when it's a federal law, it's a law above the state. And the feds basically said we had a lot of bad players. We're taking people's money and doing nothing. And so what the feds said was, you can't charge up front, and you can't charge until you're done working for the people. So if you're not successful for the people, you're just giving them an option to reduce the debt. And if they take it, fine, then you get paid. And it's a win-win for that. And the debt settlement companies do a lot of work with debtors and debt and companies like the banks that they have, you know, the banks aren't against them under that scenario. So that basically what my bill does is that my bill basically says on the debt settlement issue, it allows debt settlement companies to operate in Ohio, but they have to follow the federal law. And they have to set, actually on my committee, it's a former bank, American Bankers Association president, Steve Wilson, great guy. And Steve said, we need to put a limit on what they can charge, and let's use what the bank usury law is. And so we put a limit on what the debt companies did. So we're working hard to try to get that bill done. Another bill we're trying to get done to my bill is a foreclosure bill. You know, everybody in the room knows the major problem with foreclosures, it takes a long time to get it done. And so we did a couple years ago, we thought we passed legislation that fixed it. But one of the problems was who does the appraisal or the sheriffs? And some sheriffs don't even want to deal with it, but some sheriffs, it's a revenue source for them. And so we basically, the judges jumped in, and I don't know if the judge Beth knows this, but the judges in certain parts of the state were really delaying the process. So the bill was, we were trying to speed up the process. It really, in some cases, slowed down the process. So we basically said, hey, you don't need an appraisal. We just would take what the auditor has ruled the value is. And then at the auction, it sells. I mean, I know I live at Choctaw and we get a foreclosure. And if that we've had foreclosures where they've set for 3 and 4 and 5 years. And it just really hurts the neighborhood. So all we're trying to do, the treasurers love it dearly. All we're trying to do is speed up the foreclosure process. One thing we did with the judges, and I agree, the judges are smart. The judges that were against it came aboard because we just said, if there's no one that comes in and fights, in other words, there's no one there that in effect is against the foreclosure, that, you know, somebody says, hey, I don't think the foreclosure was fair. I want a chance to bring the property back. If there's anything on, in other words, all we deal with are foreclosure that everybody agrees on. So if there's anybody that doesn't agree, then we say, hey, this bill doesn't come into play, and the judge can delay it and let the judge decide what to do because somebody has complained, they have a letter or something. But I would say 90% of foreclosures, the people go, whatever, they're not even around under that scenario. And so usually they get it done. Other things that we're doing. I was an unemployment chair of a task force, and we have a bill, I think it's called 312, and it's in my mess here. We got killed. The whole United States got killed in fraud in unemployment when we went in an unemployment situation. And I always say, and they were all international crooks. And that's one thing I say about them. They were really good crooks. And Ohio lost about 5 billion. California lost about 40 billion, not million, billion. And so, in all the states, I think Arizona lost the least because Arizona had a rule that you had to prove online, you know, to show some type of proof of ID, that when the check went out, the check was gone. And see, we had a lot of people, and people in the room know about this. Remember that one January when we got all those 1099s were fictitious, and people said, I didn't get unemployment. Why am I getting 1099? And I would tell everybody that called me, I said, you call the state, there's a special 800 number, because that's going to the IRS and that's going to the state tax department. They're going to come after you within a year. Because unemployment is taxable, and they're going to think you received this unemployment. So you've got to get that fixed to get that out of there. And so I told everybody, and they started to run ads, Job and Family, because, you know, being co-chair of that committee, we had power. And I just said, we've got to protect the citizens of Ohio. So we have a bill that basically is fixing some of the problems of Job and Family had with unemployment. And it's pretty intricate under that bill. And so we're working on it. It really is working on it. Another one is, and I could go on and on, but there's another one is we had a major insurance agency came to us out of Cleveland, and they're a multi-state agency. And they had about 75% of the business on foster children that were high risk, and they're usually teenage foster children. And there's a legal name that describes them. And Philadelphia Insurance Company was the leading provider of insurance in Ohio, and they pulled out. And other companies pulled out. It's very similar, because I had a brother who was an OBGYN. People don't realize, but we used to have 8 companies that did OBGYN insurance protection. It went down to 3. And the 3 companies didn't really want any new business back in 01 and 02. So anybody that got with their company pulled out and they had to go with one of the 3, they became high risk. My brother was with the company that went from A- to C- overnight, and the hospitals require a C or better rating of the company. My brother no lawsuits, nothing pending, went from 100,000, and just him alone went from 100,000 a year to 600,000. And we lost probably 15% of our OBGYNs moved to other states. It's just because they couldn't afford to stay in. The hospitals can't bail them out, but Kevin was one of the big producers at Riverside in Columbus. And so Riverside hired him first 2 weekends a month and then 1 week a month. And he would go in at Friday night until Monday morning and stay there, and he'd be in charge of their program. And so if they had an emergency one where the doctor, OB couldn't get there, Kevin would deliver. And so Kevin, he'd be sleeping in the middle of the night at Riverside in a special room. And man, they'd come and get him, said, we need you. And he'd have to do that. And they paid him significant amount of dollars. But so they gave him a job on the side to help him to cover that $500,000 increase, because $500,000 is a big increase, especially for them when you look on. So there's a lot of stuff going on, that I probably missed on some of the stuff. And so I really want to open up to questions, because I mean, a lot of people here representing different things. We are going into the budget next year. And I tell all the groups, talk to the government agencies this year and talk to us this fall. You got to talk to us ahead of time, because I'm worried about where the economy is going to be, what monies we have to do. But I still want to make a decision before I get into next year of which ones I support, which ones I don't support. And then a lot depends on how much money we have. So next year, we'll be working on a budget, and the budget process starts with the governor, then it goes to Brian, then it comes to the Senate. And then the final step is the 3 groups get together and they decide the final budget. And sometimes there's some major differences that got to be worked out. So, but it is a good process. And I tell people, if you can get in the governor's first request, that's probably the best way to be in, because it's harder. It's better for it's harder to put you in at the last step than to take you out at the last step, because you've been in all the way. So I tell people, get with those agencies. And if you have any contact with the governor, his people are making a decision now what they want and what. And of course, they're coming to us, et cetera, as you could guess, because they know the system on that. But I'll just open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
Before you announced that they're going to be all electric vehicles by 2035, and then the next week they talked about rolling blackouts.
And then unbelievable. I had a lady came and see me, and she had lived in California all her life in these last 2 years, and I didn't know anything about that because I'm so busy. I don't read the paper enough. And she's the one that told me. She said, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
We're incentivizing electric vehicles in Ohio. Where are we with regard to the electric grid and then the ability to take on more electricity?
Yeah. And we've got to do that. I mean, I personally think that you're going to see electric, solar, and natural gas is the 3. I think you're going to see this movement out of coal, and you've seen it already. But coal still. I always ask the question is, when we talked about, First Energy, and I'd ask the question, is there 17, this is back when we were talking, so this is 2 years ago, there were 17% was called clean energy. So how much of the 17% was wind and solar? Does anybody in the room know of the 17? Brian may know. 2% is exactly right. 15% of the clean energy came from those 2 nuclear plants. You know, I'm a businessman. I'm not real crazy about giving money to the private sector. And Lou Terhar, big corporate guy in the House and then in the Senate with me, good guy. I mean, we stood and told First Energy we had not made up our mind. And Steve Wilson was the chairman of the PCO committee in there, and really good guy and really strong. He's the ex-banker, real strong business guy. And the problem is I called my brother, and people know my brother was for a while, and we don't know how he got that, but he was CEO of Ford Motor Company. So I called him. I said, what do you do in Michigan? He said in Michigan is they want, and we do the same thing. They want to protect the residential first and then protect the business. So commercial has to make a 25% cut, you know, if they get into a real crisis, an energy crisis. And then they can come back and do more. And you can pay more in the beginning ongoing as protection that you don't face the 25%. I think if you pay, he said like 8% more on top of your regular bill, just to protect you against bad times. You know, a lot of people think you can buy it. Somebody mentioned you can buy it on the grid. But the problem is an energy crunch could hit the whole Midwest. And proximity does mean something. That's, you know, we ended up voting for First. We had no idea what the speaker was doing. So we ended up the last minute. That's why First Energy is not crazy about us, but we did support it. But we in the Senate, we did some things that we delayed it. And I'm the one that tried to get an audit. And the gentleman who's has since pulled out, he at our caucus says, hey, I know Hackett and a bunch of you aren't happy. You want the audit, but audits are so expensive. And I have the right to order an audit. So my hand goes up and I go, how many audits have you or someone in your position ordered, you know, at the PCO? There was zero. I already knew the answer. And his face got all red. And so I said, you don't have to answer. Your body answers. We knew there were no audits under that scenario. So, you know, I mean, we want to keep jobs going and different things. But as you saw how that money was spent, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable under that scenario. So we had to do it over again, knew how the money was spent. We had voted against it. But we just wanted to keep them enforced. There was only 2 or 3 natural gas plants. We have plenty of natural gas, but we didn't have the plant capability to get it to everybody in Ohio. We needed about 5 more years. So that's all I wanted to do was have a 5-year deal that we could build up our more natural gas plants to replace those 2 nuclear plants on that scenario. I'm not real crazy about nuclear unless the price of energy keeps going up and up, and then nuclear comes back in as a solution. But it's just so expensive. I'm not worried as much as the public safety as I'm worried about I'm an economics person. I'm worried about the cost. Why are we paying more than we should be paying? But that's a question. Good question. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
And take care of the phone harassment.
That's a good question. I get that a lot. Yeah. You know, and even to the point, you know, it ticks me off. I bet I got 2 on my phone on that. You know, I wasn't real crazy about caller ID. I love caller ID because I'm a member of 3 chambers. I love it. So my wife, we look at caller ID, we just won't answer the phone. So I don't do surveys. And I know that a lot of people won't do surveys. So I'm not real crazy about surveys, you know, that's showing who's leading different things said, because I won't do that. So, yeah, I mean, the problem is it's more of a federal issue than it is a state issue, because a lot of the ones that are calling you are out of state companies and they just laugh at you I mean, I have asked them every time. I say, look, I mean, I get calls from Medicare and it's Medicare and life insurance company. I'm a CLU. I would say to them, if I needed it, I'd sell it myself and make the commission. I will never be a candidate for you. So take me off the list. They never do. They never do. And so I've complained about it. Hopefully we can get something done, but it's probably because it's such a national issue. Yeah.
And people emulate, I've had people emulate my phone number.
Oh, all the time. I agree. Oh, I know. And wait, be a state senator. You know, there'll be people that they'll use my number under that scenario. Hopefully, he told me to take 30 minutes, so I did. Yes, and I'll never be as good a speaker as David Hayes. And I know David's been. My first question when you walked in, I asked, has David spoke here before? They went, yeah. I went, oh shit. That's what I said. He is really a good speaker. He is the best. He is.
I tell them it's illegal to do cold call. They said, well, you're trying to help.
Oh, I know. Well, my problem is I don't mind being called. I just want to get off the list. They won't let me off the list. So that's the problem is. So the Fed's got to step in because every one of those calls, it's even though they'll look at a number in Ohio to call from, it's still a federal company. It's still a company outside of Ohio that's doing it. It really is. All right. Hey, I appreciate everybody's support. The last couple, I've got the end of the rest of this year and 2 more years, and then I'll be 75 then. I am not ever running again. And there are parts of it, David knows, I won't miss, and parts of it I really love, but and I've had good expertise, so I have a good reputation, Brian will tell you, with the companies. Well, I was coming, but and actually I got a call from the governor last night about 10 o'clock. I'm going to my brother's daughter's getting married Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm going to that bingo game. Dad helped get the Bengals started. And so the Bengals Steeler, and usually I have a client that takes that, but he took the Buffalo game this year versus that. So I went, yes. So, oh yeah. So
It wasn't really the governor that called, it was a spoof call.
Actually, it was the governor, and the governor says, I know it's 9:30. He says, it's not really that important that I call. And I want to say, Governor, it's 9:30, but that's okay. And he wanted 2 tickets for the game for a relative. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And as is our tradition, we'll donate a book to the Greene County Community Library. It's been signed by Senator Hackett. All right. So next week's program is Antioch archivist Scott Sanders. Keep an eye on the website for upcoming events. We'll see people at the Popcorn Festival. Is there anything else for the good of the club? Oh yeah, great. The board meeting next week. Okay. If you'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Senator, would you lead us, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.